talk that gangster shit, man. And you tell them people what I be telling you, go in that booth and rip that bitch.
Same time, like excited, you know. It's a couple different mixed feelings. Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of pressure, but same time, like.
In a shocking courtroom twist that stunned the hip-hop community, rapper Pooh Shiesty faced the ultimate betrayal when his own father reportedly cooperated with federal prosecutors. The Memphis rising star, known for hits like Back in Blood, watched as family loyalty crumbled under the weight of serious federal charges. This isn't just another rapper's legal trouble. It's a story about broken bonds, street code versus survival, and a father's impossible choice. What really happened behind those courtroom doors? Why would a father turn on his son? The truth is more complicated than anyone expected. The rise of Pooh Shiesty. Lontrell Deno Williams Jr., better known as Pooh Shiesty, wasn't born into rap royalty, but Memphis hip-hop ran through his veins. Growing up in South Memphis, he watched the city's music scene evolve from 3-6 Mafia to Yo Gotti's CMG empire. His father, Mob Boss, had his own history in the Memphis rap game, giving young Pooh an early education in both music and street life. Pooh Shiesty's breakthrough came rapidly. After signing with Gucci Mane's 1017 Records in 2020, he became one of rap's hottest new voices. His breakout single Back in Blood featuring Lil Durk didn't just climb charts, it became a cultural phenomenon. The song's aggressive energy and memorable ski mask imagery defined a moment in trap music. By early 2021, Pooh Shiesty was everywhere, racking up millions of streams and collaborating with industry heavyweights. His debut mixtape, Shiesty Season, peaked at number 3 on the Billboard 200, moving over 54,000 units in its first week. Songs like Neighbors and Guard Up showcased his raw talent and street authenticity. The Memphis rapper had a distinct voice, literally and figuratively, that cut through the crowded hip-hop landscape.
I got my own found, need security in the club, all they woofing on the net. I thought you was a thug.
Fans connected with his unfiltered storytelling and hard-hitting delivery, but success came with shadows. Even as Pooh Shiesty's star rose, whispers about his lifestyle followed him. The same authenticity that made his music compelling also meant he hadn't fully left the streets behind. In interviews, he often referenced his past, walking the fine line many rappers navigate between artistic persona and real-life consequences. His lyrics weren't just entertainment, they reflected actual experiences that would soon catch up with him. The rapper's social media presence amplified both his fame and his problems. Instagram posts showing wealth, weapons, and a lavish lifestyle attracted millions of followers, but also unwanted attention from law enforcement.
There's a clip of you and Guwap. Yeah. Man, I don't even know how you do that. Physics here. Wow.
Federal investigators were watching, building cases that would eventually bring everything crashing down. The same bravado that made him a star was painting a target on his back. Memphis has always been a city where music and street culture intersect intensely. For Pooh Shiesty, this intersection became dangerous. While his music career soared to new heights, multiple legal incidents began stacking up. Each Instagram story, each lyric, each public appearance was being cataloged by authorities looking to build their case. The clock was ticking toward an inevitable confrontation with the law. The federal charges explained, the charges against Pooh Shiesty weren't minor infractions. They were serious federal crimes that could bury him for decades.
Robbing Gucci, make sure y'all smash that like button and subscribe to the channel and watch the full video. I promise you don't want to miss it.
In October 2021, federal prosecutors in Miami hit him with a 4-count indictment that painted a picture of violent criminal activity spanning multiple incidents. Understanding these charges is crucial to grasping why his father's alleged cooperation became so devastating. The most serious charges stemmed from an October 2020 incident at the Landon Hotel in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida. According to prosecutors, Pooh Shiesty and 2 associates met up with 2 men to buy marijuana and high-end sneakers, but the transaction went sideways fast. Federal authorities alleged that Pooh Shiesty and his crew pulled weapons, shot 1 victim in the hip, and fled with the marijuana, sneakers, and thousands of dollars in cash. This wasn't just robbery, it was armed robbery with a firearm, a federal offense carrying mandatory minimum sentences. A second incident in May 2020 at the King of Diamonds strip club in Miami added more charges.
To him, he feel their main focus was on the card.
Prosecutors claimed Pooh Shiesty shot a security guard in the ankle during an altercation. This charge brought additional firearms violations and assault counts. The pattern emerging wasn't good. Multiple shootings, multiple states, multiple witnesses. Federal prosecutors love patterns because they suggest ongoing criminal behavior rather than isolated mistakes. The indictment also included conspiracy charges, which are particularly dangerous in federal court. Conspiracy means prosecutors don't need to prove you pulled the trigger, just that you planned or agreed to participate in criminal activity. These charges cast a wider net, potentially implicating associates and requiring less direct evidence. For someone like Pooh Shiesty, whose lyrics and social media posts documented his lifestyle, conspiracy charges created a minefield of potential evidence. What made these federal charges especially serious was the firearms component. Federal gun charges carry mandatory minimum sentences that judges cannot reduce, even if they want to show leniency. When firearms are discharged during violent crimes, those minimums increase dramatically.
Not only FBI, but TBI as well. Now, check this out. We've been out here for a little while now, and we have seen these agents tagging the vehicles. It's about 4 vehicles.
Pooh Shiesty was looking at potential decades in prison, not months or years. This wasn't a state court where plea deals might mean lighter sentences. This was federal prosecution with its notoriously high conviction rate. The evidence prosecutors gathered was reportedly substantial. Surveillance footage, cell phone records, witness statements, and forensic evidence all pointed toward Pooh Shiesty's involvement. Even more damaging, some of the incidents had been partially captured on security cameras. In the social media age, criminals often document their own activities, and investigators know how to use that against them. Instagram posts showing guns, money, and locations became prosecution exhibits. Federal prosecutors also had cooperation from some of Pooh Shiesty's alleged co-defendants. In the federal system, cooperation is currency. Defendants facing serious time often flip on each other, providing testimony in exchange for reduced sentences. This creates a domino effect where each person who cooperates increases pressure on those who don't. Pooh Shiesty found himself in an increasingly isolated position as the case developed. The prosecution strategy was clear: overwhelm the defense with evidence and pressure Pooh Shiesty into a plea deal. Going to trial on federal charges is risky because conviction rates exceed 90%. Juries in federal court tend to trust prosecutors and the evidence presented. For a young rapper with a documented lifestyle matching the charges, the odds of acquittal were slim. The question became not whether he'd be convicted, but how much time he'd serve. The father's alleged cooperation. The courtroom revelation that shook the hip-hop world came through whispers, then reports, then confirmation. Pooh Shiesty's father had allegedly provided information to prosecutors. In street culture and hip-hop, few betrayals cut deeper than family cooperation with law enforcement. The code against snitching isn't just about criminals protecting each other. It's a fundamental value that defines identity and loyalty in many communities. For a father to allegedly break that code against his own son represented an almost unthinkable violation. Understanding what happened requires separating rumor from fact. According to various reports and court observers, mob boss Pooh Shiesty's father was called or provided information during the legal proceedings. The exact nature of his cooperation remains disputed, with some sources claiming he provided minor information, while others suggested more substantial testimony. What's clear is that any cooperation, no matter how limited, would be viewed as betrayal by many in the hip-hop community. The context matters enormously. Mob boss himself had connections to Memphis street life and the music industry. He understood the code against cooperating with police. So why would he allegedly help prosecutors build a case against his own son? Several theories emerged. Some suggested he was protecting himself from potential charges. Others believed he was coerced or pressured by investigators threatening his own freedom. A third possibility was that seeing the actual charges, the violence, the victims, changed his perspective on protecting his son. Federal investigators are skilled at applying pressure to family members. They can threaten charges for conspiracy, obstruction, or harboring a fugitive. They can freeze assets, seize property, or suggest that refusing to cooperate makes you part of the criminal enterprise. For a parent watching their child face life-destroying charges, this pressure can become unbearable. The choice becomes impossible: betray your child or face destruction yourself. Some defenders of mob boss argued his cooperation wasn't really snitching in the traditional sense. If he simply confirmed basic facts already known to prosecutors or provided information that didn't directly incriminate his son, was that really betrayal? In the nuanced world of federal cooperation, there are degrees of involvement. Someone might verify documents, confirm relationships, or provide context without delivering damning testimony. But in the court of public opinion, especially in hip-hop culture, such distinctions rarely matter. The impact on Pooh Shiesty was reportedly devastating. Multiple sources described his emotional reaction to learning his father had cooperated. For a young man facing decades in prison, discovering that family loyalty had failed added psychological trauma to legal catastrophe. The rapper had built his image on authenticity and loyalty, values directly contradicted by his father's alleged actions. This wasn't just legal trouble anymore, it was personal betrayal. Social media exploded with reactions. Fans, fellow artists, and commentators debated whether mob boss had made an understandable choice or committed an unforgivable sin. Some pointed out that parents aren't obligated to help their children escape consequences for serious crimes. Others argued that family loyalty should transcend everything, regardless of circumstances. The debate reflected deeper tensions about accountability, loyalty, and the sometimes toxic code of silence in certain communities. The hip-hop community's response was mixed, but generally negative toward mob boss. Several artists made indirect references to the situation in songs and social media posts, condemning cooperation with law enforcement under any circumstances. The message was clear. The code against snitching applies even to family, perhaps especially to family. To do otherwise is to lose standing in the community completely. Legal experts offered a different perspective. Defense attorneys noted that family members often face impossible situations in federal cases. Refusing to cooperate can lead to obstruction charges or make you a target of the investigation. Sometimes cooperation is coerced through threats. Sometimes it's the lesser of two terrible options. The federal system is designed to break resistance through overwhelming pressure, and family members are particularly vulnerable. What complicated matters further was uncertainty about exactly what information mob boss provided. Without access to sealed documents or testimony transcripts, observers could only speculate. Did he provide evidence about specific incidents? Did he simply confirm his son's identity or whereabouts? Did he testify about criminal activities or just verify basic facts? The ambiguity made it impossible to fully judge his actions, though many judged anyway. The situation highlighted a painful reality about the criminal justice system's impact on families. When prosecutors target someone, everyone close to them becomes vulnerable. Family members must choose between loyalty and self-preservation, between protecting their loved one and avoiding their own destruction. These aren't theoretical dilemmas. They're agonizing choices with life-altering consequences either way. For Pooh Shiesty, his father's alleged cooperation portrayed a catastrophic situation. Beyond facing serious prison time, he now dealt with family betrayal, public shame, and questions about who he could trust. The emotional toll of such circumstances can be crushing, affecting mental health, decision-making, and the ability to mount an effective defense. The aftermath and sentencing. Reality hit hard when Pooh Shiesty accepted a plea deal in January 2022. Facing the mountain of evidence, the federal conviction rates, and now the complications from his father's alleged cooperation, fighting the charges became increasingly unrealistic. He pleaded guilty to a single count of conspiracy to possess firearms in furtherance of violent and drug trafficking crimes. In exchange, prosecutors dropped the other charges. It seemed like a victory until the sentencing details emerged. In April 2022, Pooh Shiesty received 63 months in federal prison, just over 5 years. For a 22-year-old at the peak of his career, this sentence meant his prime years would be spent behind bars. The hip-hop industry moves fast, and 5 years is an eternity. Artists who were unknowns in 2022 would be superstars by his release. His momentum, his relevance, his place in the culture, all would be tested by time and absence. The judge considered several factors during sentencing. Pooh Shiesty's age and lack of serious prior convictions worked in his favor. His cooperation in accepting the plea deal also helped. However, the violent nature of the incidents, the use of firearms, and the impact on victims weighed heavily against him. Federal sentencing guidelines leave judges limited discretion, but within those constraints, the judge tried to balance punishment with the possibility of rehabilitation. Legal analysts noted that 63 months was actually a relatively favorable outcome given the initial charges. If convicted on all counts at trial, Pooh Shiesty could have received decades in prison. The mandatory minimums for the firearms charges alone could have exceeded 20 years. From that perspective, the plea deal and sentence represented successful damage control by his legal team. But success in this context still meant years of freedom lost. The sentence also included supervised release following his prison term. Federal supervised release is more restrictive than probation, with strict conditions about travel, associations, employment, and behavior. Any violation could send him back to prison. For a rapper whose career depends on touring, collaborating, and maintaining a public presence, these restrictions would continue limiting him even after physical release from custody. Financially, the impact was enormous. Legal fees for federal defense can easily exceed hundreds of thousands of dollars. Lost income from touring, recording, and endorsements during imprisonment would total millions. The music industry is brutally competitive, and absence creates opportunity for others. While some artists successfully return after incarceration, many find their careers permanently damaged. Pooh Shiesty would have to rebuild from a significantly weakened position. His team immediately began planning for his eventual release and return to music. Some artists have used prison time productively, writing lyrics, planning albums, and maintaining fan engagement through letters and phone calls. The question was whether Pooh Shiesty could sustain relevance through 5 years of incarceration. History showed mixed results. Some artists came back stronger, while others faded into obscurity. The situation with his father remained unresolved publicly. Neither Pooh Shiesty nor mob boss made extensive public statements about the cooperation allegations. In hip-hop culture, such situations often fester without resolution. The damage to their relationship was presumably severe, though the private details remained private. Family dynamics after such alleged betrayal are complicated. Anger, hurt, possible reconciliation, or permanent estrangement all seem possible. Some observers noted that the father's alleged cooperation might have actually helped in unexpected ways. If his information led to the plea deal rather than trial, it might have resulted in the shorter sentence. Sometimes cooperation from family members helps prosecutors feel confident enough in their case to offer more favorable plea agreements. This remains speculative, but it illustrates how these situations are rarely simple. The hip-hop community's response to the sentencing was sympathetic to Pooh Shiesty, but critical of the circumstances that led there. Many artists posted support messages on social media, promising to keep his name alive during incarceration. Others used his case as a story about mixing street life with rap careers. The industry has seen too many talented artists derailed by legal troubles, and Pooh Shiesty became another data point in that unfortunate trend. Youth and criminal justice advocates pointed to his case as an example of how the federal system handles young offenders. At 22, Pooh Shiesty's brain was still developing, his judgment still maturing. Yet the federal system treated him with the same severity as career criminals. Some argued for more rehabilitative approaches for young first-time federal offenders, while others insisted accountability requires serious consequences regardless of age. His victims' perspectives also mattered, though they received less public attention. People were shot and traumatized during the alleged incidents. The security guard shot in the ankle, the victim shot in the hip. Their lives were permanently affected, and justice for them meant seeing the perpetrator held accountable. Their stories got lost in the narrative about the rapper's fallen career, but their pain and recovery were equally real. Prison changes people in unpredictable ways. Some inmates emerge hardened and bitter. Others find reflection and rehabilitation. For an artist like Pooh Shiesty, the experience could deepen his perspective and enhance his artistry, or it could simply be lost time that breaks his spirit. Much would depend on his choices during incarceration, whether he used the time productively or let it consume him. The music industry began preparing for life without Pooh Shiesty. His record label could release previously recorded material, keeping his name somewhat relevant. Features he'd recorded could still appear on other artists' projects, but new material would be impossible until his release, creating a content gap that's difficult to bridge. Fans are fickle, and 5 years without significant new output could prove fatal to his career. Legal reforms advocates used his case to highlight problems with federal mandatory minimums and the pressure-based plea system. When defendants face decades if convicted at trial, but years if they plead guilty, is that justice or coercion? When family members are pressured to cooperate through threats to their own freedom, does that produce reliable information or just forced testimony? These systemic questions extended far beyond one rapper's troubles. As Pooh Shiesty began serving his sentence, the full story remained incomplete. The relationship with his father, the impact on his victims, the trajectory of his career, his personal growth or decline. All these narratives unfold over years. What seemed certain was that a talented young artist had made choices with severe consequences, that family loyalty had crumbled under legal pressure, and that the intersection of hip-hop culture and criminal justice had claimed another casualty. The story of Pooh Shiesty and his father's alleged cooperation is more than just hip-hop drama. It's a tragedy with no real winners. A talented young rapper at the peak of his career now sits in federal prison, losing his prime years to decisions that took minutes but will cost him half a decade. His father, whether he actually cooperated extensively or just got caught in rumors, will forever carry the label of someone who allegedly turned on his own son. Their relationship, whatever it once was, has been shattered, possibly beyond repair. This case shows how the federal justice system put impossible pressure on families. When investigators threaten everyone around a defendant, loyalty becomes a luxury most people can't afford. Mob Boss faced a choice. No parent should face, protect his son, and risk his own destruction, or cooperate and live with the guilt and shame forever. There's no good answer to that dilemma. For Pooh Shiesty's fans, the sentencing means years without new music from an artist who was just hitting his stride. Back in Blood showed his potential, but we'll never know what he could have achieved if he'd left street life behind when success came calling. 5 years in the music industry is forever. New artists will rise, trends will shift, and his moment may never return. The real lesson here isn't about snitching or street codes. It's about consequences. Every action creates ripples that affect everyone around you. The victims who got shot carry physical and emotional scars. Pooh Shiesty loses his freedom and career. His father loses his son and his reputation. Their family is broken. And for what? A robbery at a hotel? An altercation at a club? Moments of violence that destroyed multiple lives? Sometimes there are no villains, just people making terrible choices under impossible circumstances. This is one of those stories. What do you think about this situation? Drop your comments below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more hip-hop deep explorations. Hit the bell so you never miss our next story.